Chair, we are now live.
Thank you, and a very warm welcome to those attending the petition hearing for the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Economic Growth, and to all of our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Steve Tuckwell, and I am the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Economic Growth. Details of the business this evening to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible online underneath the live broadcast. And for those present in the room and intending to speak this evening, please note that you will be filmed, so you'll be live on camera, and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible if you use the microphone is switched on, which we'll talk you through a bit later on. Okay, in terms of emergency procedures this evening, we are not expecting a fire drill, but if the alarm does go off, then please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting points. For mobile tablets and devices, you'll see that some of us are using tablets and devices. We're trying to go paperless. So if you do have mobile phones, we just ask people in the audience this evening if you can either turn them off or put them on to silent. For meeting feedback, you'll see at the back of the room there's some nice bright yellow forms where we try to get some feedback because we're always trying to improve these processes and procedures. There's also a link directly underneath the live broadcast for anybody watching at home. Okay, that's the sort of set out the domestics. I'm just going to do some introductions now so you know who I am. I'm Steve Tuckwell. This gentleman here is Steve Austin. He is our traffic, parking, road safety and school travel team manager. That's quite a long job title there. But we've also got Liz Penny from Democratic Services, but we've also got Naveed Ali just sat here to my left, who will be guiding me this evening and making sure that the process runs as smoothly as it can, and it always does, by the way, so that's good. So that now moves us on nicely to the agenda. So agenda item 1 this evening is declarations of interest in matters coming before this meeting. Don't think we have any. Agenda item 2 is to confirm that all business this evening will take place in public, as I said earlier on. And agenda item 3 is to consider the report of officers following the petitions received this evening. So that brings us nicely onto agenda item 4, which is the starring attraction this evening, which is Northwood Way, a petition for enhancing road infrastructure. So I've got Baptiste. Is that you? Okay, if you'd like gents to come and take a seat, and I will just explain to you how this traffic light system in front of us works. So constitutionally you are allowed 5 minutes to address myself and the committee or the officers supporting me this evening. On 4 minutes you're on green. When you get to the 5th minute, or 4 minutes, then you get to 1 minute left, it will go to amber. So on the 5th minute it will go red, and I'll politely draw you to a conclusion. So when you're ready, if you can press the button in the middle there, and then everybody at home will be able to hear you as well.
So, good evening, Councillor, ladies and gents. First of all, the petitioners, and we would like to thank you for receiving us here at the Council. Since, for my example, we moved to Northwood Way in 2023, that's a very busy road because that's the link between Pinner and Northwood downtown. We have witnessed repeated accidents, often linked to excessive speed or parked cars. These range from minor incidents like just mirror scraps to more serious collisions between vehicles. I was particularly struck by this line in your report. Officers have interrogated the most recently available police recorded collision data for the last 5 years, and there have been no recorded incident on the section of Northwood Way mentioned by petitioners. Of course, we've got pictures, and the police is always here to assist any hard collision in our streets. So we don't understand why there is no data. So either the Metropolitan Police are not forwarding the correct data to the Borough, or there is an issue with statistics. After speaking with our neighbor, we believe that the best way to prevent serious collisions on our road would be to implement two key measures. The first one is to reduce the speed limit to 20 mph just like it already is outside St. Helens School in Green Lane or many streets all around us. A lower speed limit would be much more appropriate and align with the character and use of the road. And secondly, in order to ensure that this new speed limit is actually respected, we would like to install a radar system.
Anything else?
Nothing. We can provide you. We've got pictures because we cannot display pictures here, so I can provide you.
Yeah. And I think just to sort of build on what Baptiste was saying, our concern also is around sort of road safety, given there's a number of schools in the area, a number of young families effectively walk to school, etc. So you've got a number of kids, walking on the road, and as the pictures Baptiste has shown, in some of the collisions, you've seen cars sort of mount pavements, etc. So I think just safety of people, etc., is also sort of a key point for us.
There is a picture. Yeah. I think it was in August 2023. I was surprised because we arrived in the UK in summer 2023, and 1 month later we attended a very hard collision, head-on collision between two vehicles. It's on the picture. You've got the zone of impact, and one of the car was thrown onto the pavement and hit our neighbor's wall. So it was a very violent collision, and fortunately, no kids were walking on the pavement, or adults, or anybody, because they could have been killed. That's why, and every term we've got many car crashes. So some of them are minors, but the last one was last Saturday, and an ambulance came to assist people. So some people were armed. So that's why I don't understand the data from the Met.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think my mic on.
Yeah.
So they might have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
So I think we can stop the time there, Naveed. So first and foremost, thank you very much for taking the time to present your concerns. It won't be on deaf ears. One of the things we pride ourselves on as a council is ensuring that our roads are as safe as they possibly can be. So that's why these petition hearings are important, so we can actually engage directly with people that live in a particular street and understand their concerns, and then begin to work with you to do something about it. Now, there are limitations as to what we can do. There are some technical aspects which we can go on to talk about. So I'm sure Steve will have some comments too. As Steve is the technical expert in the room. No pressure there, Steve. But Steve is here as our highways engineering expert, who will be able to give us a bit of his insight into the problem that you've outlined. I note your concern about the statistics. I mean, Steve, you might be able to help us out here, because I know not all collisions are recorded, and what the sort of minor dinks and bumps and wing mirrors and things aren't necessarily recorded by the Metropolitan Police, but we have got clear information that says there's been no major incidents. So I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean the problem is the data is quite a long way behind some of the incidents that you've raised, and the verified data we have at the moment is only up to 2023. So absolutely, and in the report it does say that the most recent data we could interpret that's been verified, but it does go on to say this data might not include recent collisions highlighted in the petition. So we understand that whilst we can only go on the thing that we can interrogate, that's why it's so useful to have your testimony here today. So thank you for that.
Okay. And you mentioned there's obviously families and children and navigating their way to local schools. That's something we have to be very mindful of as well. But we'll get to talk to the ward councillor in a second or two. But one of the things we have to be mindful of is that speeding enforcement is a function of the Metropolitan Police, not Hillingdon Council. We can think about what measures we can put in to mitigate speeding, but it comes down to driver behaviour a lot of the time. So, in instance, reducing the speeds to 20 miles an hour, we do that extensively when it's outside of school, for instance, for understandable reasons, but enforcing 20 mile an hour is very difficult. Virtually, well, not impossible, but can be very challenging in terms of enforcing it. But it doesn't mean to say that we won't consider it. We certainly will, but it's just managing expectations.
Yeah.
And we can change the speed, but it won't necessarily change the behaviour, change the speed limit, that is. Okay. Any further questions from you, Steve?
And maybe if the council wants to come in, then we can.
Then we can deliberate.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time this evening. We are going to continue the debate, but we're going to hear from your elected representative now, Councillor Batt. If you'd like to just maybe swap.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Councillor Batt, welcome. Thank you for attending this evening and representing your residents, which is, I know you do very, very well. But unfortunately, you only get 3 minutes, as per our constitution. So it will go 2 minutes on green, 1 minute on amber, and then at 3 minutes I will bring you to a polite conclusion. So there will be some questions afterwards as well. Okay, so over to you.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Northwood Way has in recent months become a troubling hotspot for reckless driving. My residents have directly reported a surge in dangerous incidents, head-on collisions, parked vehicles being struck, and motorists disregarding safe driving practices with quite alarming regularity. We are not dealing with vague concerns, we are dealing with a pattern of behaviour that has already resulted in serious road traffic collisions. These incidents are not just costly in material terms, they are traumatic and dangerous, and they erode the fundamental sense of security our residents are entitled to. The community in question is a quite quiet residential area, populated with family houses and directly neighbouring Hillside Infant and Junior School, a place that should symbolise growth, education and safety. And yet the presence of this school adds even more urgency to this matter. We're not just protecting parked cars, we're protecting children walking to and from school, often accompanied by younger siblings or carers. Let me be clear, this petition is not a knee-jerk reaction, nor is it seeking excessive or unreasonable action. The requests being made are proportionate and evidence-based. Firstly, the installation of single yellow lines to prevent irresponsible parking, which obstructs sight lines and reduces road width, making it harder for vehicles to pass safely. This could alone dramatically reduce the risk of collisions. Secondly, the introduction of speed reducing measures such as carefully assessed traffic calming, including speed bumps or tables appropriate for this environment. While we acknowledge some concerns over noise or disruption, these must be weighed against the real risk to life and safety. Thirdly, we support the introduction of a 20 mph speed limit on Northwood Way to bring it in line with nearby roads such as Green Lane. Whilst we appreciate the concerns on enforcement, which you mentioned, Councillor Tuckwell, consistency in speed limits promotes driver compliance, and lower speeds significantly reduce both the likelihood and severity of these accidents. And finally, a radar-controlled speed sign could serve as a constant visual reminder, promoting driver accountability and improving compliance with the speed limit. As elected representatives, we have a duty not to wait for the next serious injury or worse before we act. Whilst I appreciate that official police records may not have recorded collisions in this location over the past 5 years, I have to stress that many incidents go unrecorded unless emergency services are involved. So the accounts provided by residents are credible enough, and visual evidence submitted in the petition further supports their case. The Council's own strategy places emphasis on safe and strong communities and connected neighbourhoods. Approving these measures would be a direct expression of those commitments in practice. So I strongly urge you to support the commissioning of 24/7 speed and traffic surveys without delay, and instruct officers to begin consultation on practical parking controls and to assess its feasibility. That's fine.
I'll say a couple of seconds over, but we will forgive you for that because you was making some very valid points there. So
grateful.
Okay, so thank you for your comments, which I have to say were very articulate, and there's a few things for me to follow up with Steve on. But I think there was one here: parked cars,
yes,
and yellow lines. I know what Steve's going to say. So I'll just maybe steal a bit of his thunder to start with. But what we're finding in other parts of the borough is that where we are removing parking, that actually causes the road to open up a little bit and actually encourages speeding.
Okay.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, it'd be good to see the statistics on it, of course. I guess speeding can be discouraged by the 20 miles per hour speed limit and the humps. I guess that can be a deterrent.
Yeah, I think just to come back on that, I think sometimes parked cars act as a natural traffic calming themselves. I know that it runs a risk of wing mirrors and things like that being damaged.
Yeah.
We've had other parts of the borough where, if you take away parking, you're actually opening the road up to more risk of higher speeds. So, but that doesn't mean to say that we won't look at it. We will pick up all of the points that have been raised this evening. I don't know if you wanted to come in on that, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Interesting stuff. I mean, I lived in sort of Northwood Hills for about 35 years, so I'm frequently use this road and still do. I'm interested because I use sort of the road during the week and at weekends, and it's always quite heavily parked. So I suppose the question is, do we know why people are choosing to park on the carriageway? Is it because there's lack of parking off-street, or is there something that I don't know about where people are attracted to and decide to park there and then go somewhere else? And have you any thoughts on the times and days that you would like to see the yellow lines?
I think I say from what I know from my knowledge of the area is that there is a new community centre that's been opened up, and I think that's caused a lot of traffic, just not only on Joel Street, but also it's impacted other roads, including Northwood Way, and I think that's increased parking over the last probably 6-7 months, and we've had regular inquiries and complaints in relation to that. So I think that's one of the key issues. But I think generally speaking, it's an area that's increased in terms of its population over time as well, especially since I've been a councillor, and a lot of people use it to perhaps park to use the train station and other amenities. Some of it's great restaurants and cafes that are popping up at the moment and on the high road. So.
Yeah, a sneaky little shout out for your high street as well there. So that's good. Well done. Economic growth from my portfolio as well. So that's good. Question I was going to ask you was about your relationship with the local Safer Neighbourhood team. Do you have a ward panel?
Yes, yeah. There is,
so I suppose my follow up to that is have you had any conversations with the Metropolitan Police locally, and what's their view in terms of what they can do to enforce speeding?
It's a good question. I think we haven't had a conversation about this particular road, but I know that the Residents Association are regularly in contact with them, and I think I'm going to be meeting them this evening actually. Okay. So I'll definitely raise it with them today.
I know you've got to get off to a residents meeting.
Well, that's okay.
It's part of your diligent work as a local councillor. But what I would suggest is when you are in conversation with the Metropolitan Police, Northwood Hills SNT, explore the opportunity of what they call community speed watch.
Okay.
So they'll go out with their speed guns and they'll invite maybe residents to come along and participate. We've even had it elsewhere in the borough where they've had school children stood with police officers, scanning for speeding vehicles, and it's quite an effective and powerful way to, how is dealing with individuals that are speeding, but also then involving the community in that as well. So you could involve a couple of residents from Northwood Way in that. So maybe have a think about that, because it's ultimately down to the police to enforce any speeding.
Sure.
Speeding. We can design highway mitigation to kind of prevent it, but at the end of the day, it's down to the individual driver whether they choose to comply with a flashing sign or a static sign or a speed hump or a chicane or whatever it is that we can do to think about how we address this problem. Okay, right. I don't have any other further questions, but I've got a very clear picture of what the situation is. Then if you wanted to come in there, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one more question, and I think, Councillor, you might have answered it for me. Let's talk about radar. Sorry, how did you put it? A radar system. Am I thinking a vehicle-activated sign, or were you thinking of something different? Because if you're thinking of sort of speed cameras that take average speed checks, that's not within the council's gift. if you're talking about a flashing sign to advise drivers to slow down and warn them of their speeding, then that is something we can investigate. So a bit of clarity would be useful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. I think when I was speaking, I think I was talking about the actual sign, so a control speed sign as opposed to an actual speed. I don't know what you call it, but speed gun. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, that is a good point. It's useful to clarify that because those enforcement cameras.
Radar system, because if people they don't like to be touched in their wallet, so
yeah.
The best way to make them decrease the speed to slow down. Yeah. Because they are the other meters.
Yeah. I think the point that Steve's referred to there is that the enforcement cameras that you get a letter in the post to say you've been caught speeding are the jurisdiction of Transport for London. We don't do those. We have to do it through Transport for London and the police and the police. Although legislation might change at some point in the future, you never know. We might get that jurisdiction. And I think we'd welcome it as long as we've got the funds with it as well. Okay, right, I've got enough, I think, to be getting on with. So we have a report here in front of us, which has been carefully prepared by officers beforehand with 3 recommendations. First recommendation is to meet with the petitioners, and again, I'd like to thank you for your contributions this evening, and I'm sure anybody else watching online. Have you got anybody watching? Yes, we have. We got people watching online as well, so would have seen how you've articulated your concerns with support from your ward councillor as well. So we've had that recommendation 1 we can tick off. Recommendation 2 is to consider the commissioning of a 24/7 speed traffic survey. So before we do any design work on whatever system we think we need to be putting in place to mitigate speed, we have to understand what is the problem in the first place. So the traffic surveys are 24/7. Steve will probably explain it a lot better than I in a moment or two, but at the end of the meeting we will also ask you to give us an indication as where you'd like the surveys to be positioned in Northwood Way. Now there's certain criteria, obviously we have to attach it to something, so at the end of the meeting we'll ask you to come up and help us understand where you think they would be best positioned, and Councillor Back can help with that. And the third recommendation decides if officers should undertake informal consultation on parking restrictions. And again, if we are going to introduce any form of parking restriction, we can't just do it, we have to consult with residents and take a view from residents as well. So we'll go into that consultation as well. So I'm happy with those 3 recommendations. I'm happy to approve them, Naveed. And again, I would like to thank you and any other residents from Northwood Way that are watching this evening. Really thank you for your contribution this evening. It's been insightful. You live in the road. You know how it is to live there. You experience the difficulties that you've articulated, on a regular basis, and it's incumbent on us as your local authority to listen to you and think about what we can do by terms of next steps. But the traffic surveys will give us an indication as to how much traffic, what time of day the traffic is, and what speed the traffic is going as well. So I don't know if there's anything else technical you want to add to how the survey works.
Only the fact that once we have the data, we of course share it with the Safe Neighbourhood teams as well. So it provides them some information about if they want to target some enforcement at certain times of the day. Maybe the problem is, and I know the area quite well, we do lots of reports of late night young drivers tending to use the area as a bit of a racetrack. So it could be that the information that's scattered through the speed surveys can provide them with some useful data that they can target some enforcement. So, but yeah, I've got a plan here. If you'd like to come up and see me, then we can agree some locations.
Okay, well that brings us to the end of the formal parts of tonight's petition hearing. So I'll bring proceedings to a close, but again, publicly place on record my thanks to you for contributing this evening, and also thank anybody else who's been watching at home on YouTube. And on that note, we'll bring proceedings to a close. Thank you and good night, everybody.
Thanks, Chair.